The cameras flashed, the crowd froze, and just like that, Hollywood had a new obsession.
It is truly one of the most stunning public unravelings we have seen in a long time.
Welcome to StarScope Report. Join us as we uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And today, we have a massive story that is blowing up everywhere.
Exactly. We are diving into the viral headline you have probably seen floating around your feed. Dak Prescott finally breaks silence after his wedding was suddenly called off.
Yeah, and we're going to look at this from a few different angles. We're taking the relentless gossip from the sports tabloids, and we're actually pairing it with a peer-reviewed academic paper.
Which sounds crazy, I know.
Yeah.
But we want to unpack the timeline of this highly publicized breakup, separate the verified facts from the rumors, and figure out why the press obsessively covers the private lives of public figures.
Right, and more importantly, the ethical collateral damage that obsession inflicts on their families.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand the fallout, you have to understand the foundation that was being built. Picture this, the scenery is absolutely cinematic.
Oh, totally.
You have this lavish dream wedding set for the shores of Lake Como, Italy. We were talking bespoke floral arrangements, a guest list packed with NFL royalty.
Just a meticulously planned springtime celebration in one of the most beautiful places on Earth.
Right. And then, just 5 weeks before the April 10th, 2026 date, the entire fairy tale crumbles to pieces.
5 weeks. I mean, that's just shock. Hundreds of guests checking their inboxes to find this heavy-hearted, kind of vague email stating the event is entirely canceled.
No wedding, no trip to Italy. So let's look at the verified timeline here, just to ground ourselves in the facts.
Yeah, let's start at the beginning. So the romance between Dak Prescott and Sarah Jane Ramos, it became public knowledge back in September of 2023. She attended a Cowboys game against the New York Giants.
And Sarah Jane is an interesting figure, right? Because she wasn't a celebrity in the traditional sense, but she is highly successful in her own field.
Exactly. She is a certified wine and spirit specialist. She works with major luxury brands like Moet Hennessy and Diageo.
And she comes from a wealthy family in Tampa.
Yeah.
So she definitely wasn't some unknown person looking for a meal ticket. She had her own money.
Right, but dating the face of the Dallas Cowboys, I mean, that thrusts you into a completely different stratosphere of fame overnight.
Oh, instantly. And she made the relationship Instagram official shortly after that game. And from the outside looking in, the progression of their life together looked incredibly fast and, very serious.
They started a family almost immediately. They now share 2 young daughters. Margaret Jane Rose, who goes by MJ, she's 2 years old.
Yeah.
And their youngest, Aurora Rain, is just 10 months old. And notice the middle name there. Aurora's middle name, Rain, is actually Dak's real first name.
See, that specific detail paints a picture of a family building a very deep, permanent foundation. You don't name your daughter after your partner unless you are, envisioning a lifelong commitment.
No, absolutely not. And by October 2024, that commitment seemed totally sealed. Dak proposed on a golf course with a ring reportedly worth $1 million.
$1 million. Just wow.
Yeah, and they set their sights on this massive Lake Como wedding. But instead of walking down the aisle, the relationship detonated?
And this is where things get really messy. The catalyst, according to multiple reports, was a joint bachelor and bachelorette party in the Bahamas in March.
The reports from Page Six and, various sports tabloids indicate that this Bahamas trip was simply the breaking point. The tension had been escalating for months.
Right, because the timeline points to Ramos issuing a strict ultimatum back in January. And the core allegation here is that she discovered Dak was using incognito social media profiles to send inappropriate messages to multiple women.
Including former flings.
Yeah.
Which, is just wild. And that's not even the wildest part. Later in the episode, we'll talk about the shocking twist nobody saw coming regarding how the tabloids legally get away with printing this stuff.
Seriously, it's fascinating. But if we just look at human nature here for a second, taking a joint bachelor-bachelorette trip when a couple is already on rocky ground and they're dealing with fresh infidelity allegations.
It's a disaster waiting to happen.
It is literally like holding a magnifying glass over dry leaves in the midday sun. It was always going to ignite. You have the pressure of the impending wedding, all your friends surrounding you, the party environment.
It is the perfect recipe for a total meltdown. And following that blow up in the Bahamas, the wedding was officially called off.
And if you're loving these Hollywood twists so far, make sure you're subscribed. We've got even crazier stories ahead, and you really don't want to miss how this unfolds.
Definitely hit subscribe.
Yeah.
So what is truly instructive here from a media analysis standpoint is the gap between the public relations spin and the messy reality.
Because the official statements, right, and even Dak's own recent words to reporters at the Dallas Morning News, the framing is very deliberate.
Yeah, they call it a mutual split that has been plagued by, quote, false narratives.
Right, because the PR machine always wants to flatten the narrative into something digestible and blameless. We mutually decided to part ways.
But the details, the ultimatums, the alleged burner accounts, the abrupt cancellation, it all suggests a woman who tried to make it work for the sake of her 2 young kids, caught her partner crossing boundaries again, and finally just pulled the plug.
And the moment that highly sanitized mutual split statement hits the press, it creates a void. The public knows $1 million wedding wasn't canceled for no reason.
Exactly. So the tabloids rush in to fill the silence with whatever they can find, or in some cases, whatever they can just invent out of thin air.
Which brings us perfectly into the rumor mill. Almost immediately after the cancellation leaked, speculation started swirling that a bitter disagreement over a prenuptial agreement ended the relationship.
Oh yeah, the prenup rumor. And then there were those rumors flying around on TikTok that Ramos was in some sort of subliminal social media feud with Dak's ex-girlfriend, Natalie Buffett.
But both of those narratives appear to be entirely fabricated, right?
Completely false. Sources close to Ramos confirmed the prenup rumor was just nonsense. As we noted earlier, she has her own generational wealth and a successful career. She wasn't after his NFL salary.
Yeah, and she reportedly made her TikTok account private the moment the feud rumors gained traction. She was actively trying to shut the speculation down rather than fuel it.
Which is such a telling move, but it begs the question, if these rumors are baseless, why do publications push these stories so relentlessly?
Why the desperation to find an angle, even a demonstrably false one. And this is where that academic paper by Dr. Gemma Horton really cracks the code for us.
What's fascinating here is the sheer economic imperative behind invading a celebrity's privacy. Dr. Horton, she cites this major UK government report called the Cairn Cross Review. And this review analyzed how the digital age has fundamentally altered the mechanics of news consumption. People no longer sit down and read a newspaper cover to cover, absorbing nuance.
No, we consume news superficially now. We scroll, we skim, we flick between headlines on our phones while we're waiting in line for coffee. We're completely overloaded with information.
So our attention spans are shattered. We only engage with the most extreme stimuli. And because of that superficial consumption model, publishers are just forced to rely on sensationalism.
They need clickbait to generate programmatic online advertising revenue.
Exactly. The more shocking the headline, the more clicks it gets, and the more fractions of a cent the publication earns from advertisers.
And entertainment and celebrity gossip are consistently ranked as top drivers for those clicks. So you have rival publications constantly vying for the scoop, trying to out-sensationalize each other just to capture your attention.
It is a bizarre economic loop.
It really is. It's like rubbernecking in a car crash. But in this scenario, every time you tap your brakes to look, a penny drops directly into the pocket of the person who caused the crash.
That is a great analogy. The system financially rewards the most invasive behavior possible, which inevitably pushes ethical boundaries right to the edge and often completely over it.
The pressure to generate revenue just overrides the ethical consideration of whether a story is actually true or whether it ruins a life.
Yeah.
But wait, I'm getting stuck on this next part, though. I understand why a website wants to publish a cheating scandal for ad revenue, but how do they legally justify it?
This is where it gets crazy.
Because Dr. Horton's paper talks about the role model defense. How does a tabloid walk into a courtroom and say, oh, we aren't doing this for money. We're exposing this quarterback's private life to help society understand morals.
Right. It sounds absurd.
It sounds like a massive cynical loophole. Does the law actually buy that?
Well, it is a highly cynical loophole, and scholar Chris Frost discusses it extensively in the paper. The media frequently attempts to argue that celebrities are, by virtue of their fame, role models for the public.
Okay.
So the argument goes that exposing their moral failings, like cheating allegations or using secret incognito profiles to message other women, it actually provides a tangible societal benefit.
Wow. So the press claims they are merely facilitating a public discussion about acceptable moral boundaries. Here's where it gets really interesting, because that sounds like a very noble excuse for publishing trash.
Oh, totally. We are the guardians of societal morality. But the courts, they strongly disagree with that framing.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, this is where we look at the landmark Max Mosley case highlighted in the research. Mosley was a prominent figure, the president of the FIA, which governs Formula One racing.
I remember this. A tabloid exposed his private, highly controversial sexual activities.
Yes, and when he sued, the tabloid tried to use a version of that public interest defense, but the judge, Justice Eady, ruled definitively that the law is morally neutral.
Meaning the legal system doesn't care if society finds your private behavior distasteful.
Precisely. Justice Eady stated that just because society might view someone's private behavior with deep moral disapproval, that does not provide any legal or ethical justification for the press to intrude on their personal privacy.
Unless the private behavior directly impacts their public duties, right?
Right.
Like a politician campaigning on a platform of strict family values while secretly embezzling money to fund an affair.
Exactly. In those cases, the courts might allow it, but otherwise, they generally attempt to protect private life.
So in other words, just because you think cheating on your fiancé is wrong, it doesn't mean a website has the legal right to publish the messy details of your breakup.
Right. But as we know, the tabloid ecosystem operates on a completely different set of rules than the courtroom, which forces the celebrity into a very specific kind of defensive posture.
And we see that defensive posture perfectly illustrated by Dak Prescott's response to this entire ordeal. Look at how he handled the media at training camp out in Oxnard, California.
Yeah, that was a masterclass in deflection.
He sits down with veteran sports reporter Nui Scruggs. And he doesn't address the incognito profiles. He doesn't mention the blow-up in the Bahamas or the canceled wedding.
No, instead, he completely polishes his public image. He called his faith his superpower. He insisted that his personal trials haven't affected his job at all as he enters his 11th NFL season.
He pivoted the entire narrative away from his private failings and toward his professional focus and religious grounding. And he has the stats to back up the professional focus.
He really does.
You have to remember, he is coming off a season where the team went 7-9-1, but he personally threw for 4,552 yards and 30 touchdowns.
He is an MVP caliber player, so his message to the public is essentially, I am blessed, I am focused on winning football games, and I am ignoring all these false narratives.
It highlights a massive tension for you, the listener, as a consumer of this media. On one side of your screen, you have this highly polished, impenetrable PR response designed to protect a multi-million-dollar athletic brand. And on the other side of your screen, you have a tabloid ecosystem that is desperate to tear that brand down and expose the unvarnished truth simply to sell advertisements. You are caught right in the middle trying to decipher reality from spin.
It is a lot to process. But while we are so focused on the star quarterback and the media machine battling it out, there is a whole other group of people caught in the crossfire who never asked to be there.
The collateral damage.
The families. This is the core focus of Dr. Horton's academic research, and frankly, it is the most sobering part of this entire deep dive.
Let's look at Dak and Sarah Jane's current reality. Despite the dramatic and public nature of the breakup, reports indicate they are handling custody of MJ and Aurora peacefully and entirely out of court.
Which is so important. Ramos's attorney, Raymond Raful, went on the record stating, this is what we wanted all along. They're living separately in Texas, actively trying to prioritize co-parenting away from a judge.
Which is the best possible outcome for those two little girls. You want them shielded from the drama. But it makes you think about the absolute pressure cooker those kids and Ramos herself are living in because of the press circling their house.
It is terrifying. And Dr. Horton's paper digs into the testimonies from the Levison inquiry in the UK, which investigated the culture and ethics of the press.
And the stories about what happens to the families of public figures are just harrowing.
The press rarely stops to consider the psychological consequences on the non-famous family members. The paper highlights several tragic examples to illustrate this.
Like the Hugh Grant situation, right?
Yeah, actor Hugh Grant testified at the inquiry about how his romantic partners were relentlessly hounded by the paparazzi. It got so severe that one partner had to seek legal protection under the Protection from Harassment Act.
Just to be able to walk down the street with her child without being mobbed by photographers. And the collateral damage goes even darker than harassment.
It really does. Former footballer Gary Flitcroft had a legal injunction lifted, which allowed the press to legally publish all the details of an extramarital affair he had.
Okay.
Flitcroft testified that the subsequent media circus was unbearable. The abuse directed at his young children at school and the shame brought upon his extended family were so severe that he believes it contributed directly to his father's suicide.
That is just, wow. I mean, you read a headline while you're waiting in line at the grocery store and you forget about it 5 minutes later. But for that family, it's a permanent tragedy.
It is a life destroyed.
You have innocent people whose lives are completely upended so a website can hit its monthly traffic goals. Dr. Horton's paper also mentions singer Charlotte Church, right?
Yes, Charlotte Church spoke about the severe mental health toll the tabloids inflicted on her non-famous parents when the press decided to expose her father's affair.
Right, because their parents weren't public figures. They hadn't chosen a life in the spotlight, but their lives were dismantled for public consumption anyway.
Exactly. And if you're listening to this and thinking, well, I just read an article about Dak and Sarah Jane's breakup yesterday, am I part of the problem?
That is exactly the uncomfortable reality this research points at.
Mhm.
But how is this legally allowed to continue? If the human cost is this high, why hasn't the regulatory system stepped in?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to look at the regulatory framework that supposedly governs the press. In the UK, following the Leveson inquiry, a body called the Independent Press Standards Organization, or IPSO, was formed.
And they were designed to self-regulate the press.
Right. Their editor's code of practice, specifically Clause 2, is strictly supposed to protect personal privacy.
But Dr. Horton's paper argues the system is fundamentally useless.
Deeply useless. The issue is that voluntary self-regulation lacks any real leverage. To put it in economic terms, if the cost of breaking the privacy rules is less than the profit generated by publishing the scoop, publications will break the rules every single time.
That makes sense.
Dr. Horton points out a staggering statistic that proves this. Between 2014 and 2019, despite officially recording 1,702 code violations regarding privacy and accuracy, IPSO did not issue a single fine to a publication.
Wait, not one fine. Out of over 1,700 violations.
Zero. Not a single fine.
That is wild. I mean, think of it like the NFL allowing teams to referee their own games. If the penalty for holding is just a sternly worded letter from the league, but the holding wins you the Super Bowl and millions of dollars in bonuses, you're going to hold on every single play.
Exactly.
There is literally zero financial deterrent. The regulator is basically a scarecrow in a field made of money.
The publications simply do not fear the regulator. The paper compares IPSO to a newer, officially recognized regulator called Impress, which actually attempts to have teeth and enforce financial penalties.
But I'm guessing the tabloids don't like that.
No, the massive tabloid publishers simply refuse to join Impress because there is no legal incentive forcing them to subject themselves to real consequences.
The system is essentially rigged to protect the publisher's profit margins over the privacy and mental health of families. Which brings us all right back to you, listening to this deep dive. Why does this matter to your daily life?
It matters because we are the consumers powering the machine.
We all click on these stories. We eagerly consume the celebrity gossip, the canceled weddings, the dramatic ultimatums. But that casual consumption fuels a massive industry that completely blurs the line between genuine public interest and private devastation for innocent family members.
It is a ruthless cycle of supply and demand. As long as we demand the messy details of a canceled Lake Como wedding, the media will supply them, regardless of the human cost or the truth of the rumors.
So what does this all mean? We started with the dramatic image of a lavish Italian wedding falling apart, guests receiving heavy-hearted cancellation emails, and a star quarterback trying to pivot his focus back to the football field.
But what we've actually uncovered is a perfect case study for the collision of personal tragedy, public relations spin, and the relentless, often destructive economics of the media machine.
We've seen how facts are twisted into TikTok rumors, how the press uses a cynical role model defense to justify invading privacy, and most importantly, how the families of public figures are left to navigate the wreckage of a regulatory system that refuses to protect them.
It really reframes how you look at that sensational headline in your feed.
It really does. And this raises an important question, one that builds on everything we've discussed today.
Yeah, Dr. Horton's paper talks a lot about the reasonable expectation of privacy, which is the key legal and ethical test.
Right.
But in our modern era, the lines are incredibly blurred. If a partner willingly shares their life on social media, like Sarah Jane Ramos making things Instagram official in a cowboy's jacket and sharing her family's joy, do they inadvertently surrender their family's right to privacy?
Have they opened the door and invited the public in? Oh, that is a tough one. Because you want to be able to share your joy and your family milestones without inviting a tabloid drone into your living room to scrutinize your worst moments.
And to flip that coin, look at the other side of the allegations. If a star goes out of their way to use incognito profiles to hide their actions, as the reports suggest Dak Prescott did, does that deliberate attempt at maintaining secrecy, ironically, make the public exposure more justified?
Because they are actively deceiving the wholesome public image they profit from.
Exactly. Or does it just make the media's intrusion into their digital life that much more invasive?
It is a massive ethical gray area. It makes you wonder where the boundary actually lies, or if the internet has completely erased the concept of privacy for anyone adjacent to fame.
It is definitely something to think about the next time you're scrolling.
You've been listening to StarScope Report, where we uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.